Hey guys, okay, so part B of Unit 10, Lesson 2, and this time we're going to be looking at the domain and the range of our square root functions. And so looking at a square root function, looking at the equation of it, if you can identify the transformations, then you can easily identify the domain and the range. So again, we're just going to start with the parent function. That is f of x equals the square root of x. And the domain of our parent function, if you remember, domain, this is our input, right? These are our x values. This is what we can actually plug, I misspelled that, plug into our function. So think of what numbers can you take the square root of. Hopefully you remember that as 0 and then all the positive numbers. We just can't take the square root of a negative number. And so 0 and then all the positive numbers all the way up to infinity. And so the way that we're going to write that is interval notation. And so the smallest number first, so 0, and we can go all the way up to infinity. And remember that infinity gets a parenthesis because it's not a real number. 0, though, is included. I can plug 0 into here, and so it's going to get a bracket because it's included. So there's our domain. Same thing for our range. If you think of all the numbers you can plug in, what can you get back out? Well, square root of 0 is 0, and the square root of any positive number is just another positive number. So the range, as well, is 0 to infinity, bracket, and parenthesis. So how do I figure out, if I change this, what's going to be the domain, what's going to be the range? If you remember our horizontal transformation, that moved left or right, horizontal, moved left or right, and so this changes our domain, actually, left or right. So horizontal goes with the x-axis, and so it'll kind of dictate our domain. It does not influence our range at all. So let's look at a function that has a horizontal transformation. So square root of x plus 2. If you remember from the first video, what type of transformation is this? It should move it left 2 units. So we're going left 2. And so what we're going to do, instead of our domain starting at 0, we're going to go left 2. So our domain now, instead of it starting at 0, starts at negative 2, all the way up to infinity. And a horizontal transformation does not change our range at all, so range will still go from 0 to infinity. Alright, and we've got to kind of be careful about this, because what if we had square root of, let's say, 3 minus x. We're going to do it like that. So now notice that the order of these is switched. So it kind of works a little bit differently, but an easy way to figure it out. What number do I plug in here that gives me 0? It's negative 2. And then, so negative 2 would give me 0. Any number bigger than negative 2, so all the way up to infinity, will still give me a positive number under here. So I still need to know what's going to give me a positive number under here. If you can rationalize that in your head and figure it out, awesome. Another way to do it is to actually say, okay, 3 minus x, I need that to be greater than or equal to 0. So what x values? We looked at how to solve this last semester, so this should be something that you know how to do. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Cancels out. Don't forget this is negative x greater than or equal to 0 minus 3 is negative 3. I want to know just x because that will give me my domain, so I'm going to divide by a negative 1. Remember, we're dealing with an inequality, so when I divide by a negative, I'll get positive x, I'll get positive 3, but it's going to switch my inequality symbol back the other way. And so look at what it's telling me my domain is now, everything that's less than or equal to 3. So less than all the way down to negative infinity. And so our domain and range now for this function my domain, it goes all the way down to negative infinity, but it could be as big as 3. And I have the equal to bar underneath, so I get a bracket, and I get a parenthesis. And remember, this is just a horizontal transformation, so it does not affect my range at all. Range is still 0 to infinity. Alright, so this is the only transformation that's going to mess with my domain. The other two that we'll look at will strictly mess with my range. So if I have a horizontal transformation, I know I have a change in my domain, but if not, then my domain is still 0 to infinity. So let's now look at vertical transformation. Dyslexic today. Vertical transformation. Remember, this goes up and down like my y-axis, so it will affect my range. So again, let's just jump right in. This one's really not as complicated as the horizontal transformation. If I have f of x equals the square root of x plus 2. If you remember what our parent function looks like, it starts at the origin, so it starts at 0 and goes up. But what does this do? This tells me to go up 2 units, so instead of starting at 0, I'm going to start at 2 now. And so my domain doesn't get affected at all, it's still 0 to infinity. But my range now, I'm adding 2, so it's 2 to infinity. Alright, and say it was minus 7 right here. Well, then I would have negative 7 to infinity. So our vertical transformations are actually really easy to fix. Alright, so the last one that we're going to look at that will have an effect on our domain and our range is the negative value, so our reflection over the x-axis. This is going to affect our range as well. So we have two transformations that affect our range, the vertical transformation and the reflection over the x-axis. Remember, this is the negative out front. And if you remember, what does it do? The negative out front is going to pull it down here. And so think of what that does to my y values now. I don't have 0 to infinity. I'm going to have 0 start at 0, and we're going to go down to negative infinity. So the negative out front, f of x equals the negative square root of x. I know we looked at that example in the last video. This negative right here, again, it's not going to affect my domain at all. Domain is only affected with a horizontal transformation, so my domain stays the same. My range now is going to be flipped. Instead of it going from 0 to infinity, it's going to go negative infinity all the way up to 0. So it flips it over. Alright, so let's look at let's look at one that has several different transformations in it. So one good example right here. Let's say we have f of x equals negative 2 square root x plus 3 plus 1. And so, very first one, I'm going to fix the domain real quick because that'll be easy. This one changes my domain. What is this transformation? It's to the left 3, so my domain is going to be negative 3 to infinity. And again, I get a little bracket. And so now what happens with my range? This 2 does not affect it at all. Does not affect my domain or my range at all. So I'm looking at this negative right here, and I'm looking at this plus 1 right here. So the order that we do it in is going to matter. We're going to start from left to right. So my reflection is going to change it. Instead of 0 to infinity, we'll go negative infinity to 0, and then we're going to add 1. So let's look at that graph real quick. This is going to flip it over, so like that, and the plus 1 will bump it up 1. So we're going to go up 1, and now like this. And so my range it's going to go from negative infinity up to positive 1. Good deal? All right. So that's how we find the domain and the range. Remember, the vertical stretch and compression isn't going to affect it at all. So here are your practice problems. Take a second, pause it to write these down. These should go into your notebook that you're keeping notes in. Okay? Remember, as always, I'm here if you need me. Just email me, and hopefully I will see y'all soon. I hope you have a great day. Y'all are amazing. Bye.